All right, guys. So last season, the New Jersey Devils, their longest winning streak was 3 games. Not this year, guys. After last night's win over the Habs, that streak has hit double digits. It's at 10, and we are very pleased to be joined by the general manager of the team, Tom Fitzgerald, on the Athletic Hockey Show. Thanks for doing this, Tom.
Oh, you're very welcome, guys. Hope you're all well.
Well, we know you're well. We know things are going well. 13-3, 10 wins in a row. I'm really not sure you could have scripted this any better. I mean, it doesn't matter what team. If this was the Colorado Avalanche, we'd be talking about this just being an historic way to start the season. But it's got to be ear-to-ear grins across the organization right now, doesn't it?
I think everybody's happy where we're at. But again, it's the results have been great, but we're really focusing on the process and how we got here and, what we needed to do differently. How do we think differently? How do we approach each day differently? How do we keep each other accountable? So there's been a bit of a culture shift within that room, in the locker room. I think the maturity of our younger pillars is showing right now. But, when you add guys to that room who've had, championship pedigree, that expectations are to make the playoffs. You just inject the room with a different mindset on what your day-to-day is. But to be quite honest, the coaching staff have done a really good job of preparing our team and how we play, making adjustments. But we're really just focusing on the process, not the result.
I'm still fascinated. 1995, you're a young 20-something hockey player, and behind the bench is Lindy Ruff in Florida. And I'm like, it just shows. I mean, here we are, 27 years later. Could you ever have imagined that you'd be hiring Lindy Ruff to coach your team?
No, I mean, when you play, you just worry about playing, and you think you can play forever, and you don't think about what's after. But when you get to that, that time of your life and career, you start thinking about what's next. And for me, managing was never what's next. Staying in hockey would be great. I think I'd be a pretty good coach. I like the X and O's, the motivation. And no, I didn't. At Lindy, I actually got Lindy's name from a friend. Said, hey, you should probably interview Lindy Ruff. I was like, really? He was assistant in New York. The greatest thing about Lindy is it's not his records. It's not where he sits in the coaching scheme. He's just a great person. He's just a good man. And, I think that's the one area that we've focused in on. And it starts at the top, and it started with Ray Shero before me. Hire good people. Ray did that with a bunch of guys, and I've done it since. And you hire good people that care. You hire people who are curious, people who have growth mindsets and want to get better. Don't know it all, and are willing to be challenged and challenged. And Lindy checks all those boxes. He's just a great person.
You had to get a kick out of the "Sorry, Lindy" chant the other night, right?
Well, that was nice of our fan base to acknowledge the initial chants. Hey, listen, and Lindy addressed it. We've got a very passionate, impatient fan base, and a very good reason. They expect a lot, and as do we. I'm glad they're enjoying it right now, but they're passionate, and that's what passionate fan bases do. They express their thoughts and their opinions, and we respect that.
A lot of people are surprised by this start, but you mentioned the change in culture. There were some things that needed to change, but there were a lot last year, even without the success on the scoreboard, the success in the standings. There were a lot of metrics that pointed to this being a really good hockey team. I guess, how surprised are you guys that the team has been this good? Or were there a lot of things that you guys saw going into this year, building on last year, that you kind of foresaw this type of jump?
You're right. There was a lot of positives from a negative season. You saw where the metrics were trending. You saw where our young players were growing and how they were growing, and the confidence that they were having. We changed. I give the coaching staff credit last year of changing on how we wanted to play. We became more passive than aggressive because of what we were giving up and what we were letting in. So they made some adjustments. You you want to help your team again take the next step. But at the end of the day, it's the individuals. You see where Nico Hischier's game's going, Jack and Jesper Bratt, even our so-called fourth line. I don't think they're our fourth line, the BMW line, and what they bring to the game every day. The one thing that I was really, impressed with and encouraged by and really agreed with was every player needs a role. You just can't have guys not playing, just playing 5-on-5, or give them a role, give them ownership in something, make them feel part of a group, whether it's on the PK or the power play. Empower them to be part of something great. What's the why? Like, why are you on our team? Like, I can do this, this, and this. But the most important thing is the buy-in. You have to have buy-in from players. Good teams have buy-in from every single player to play a role. And I think that's what you're seeing this year. Plus the injection, I said it earlier, the injections of injecting, championship pedigree with a Palat, the style play of an Eric Haula, and what he brings to the table, the all-around play of John Marino, the toughness and hardness of Brendan Smith. Like, we want to address certain areas, and we check those boxes. But at the same time, we're a draft and development team. Like, we have to build from within and develop and really put the onus in on our development side.
Tom, you kind of stole my next question, because I know your philosophy on rental players has always kind of been, it's tough for them to come in and make that turnaround. You were dealt twice at the deadline, and it's tough turnaround to do. And when a team is slowly improving, that's an easy sell. Hey, we're going to build within. We're going to do exactly what you just said. But when your team's off to such a start, how difficult is it to convince your fan base, convince ownership, convince just the people in your room that, hey, we cannot go out and just change our philosophy because we're sitting in first place right now? I mean, that's got to be tough, because everyone loves to tinker when things are going this well, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you're not challenging your group every day, even through a 10-game winning streak or a 5-game losing streak, then you're not looking to improve. We're not satisfied. And we don't look ahead. We stay right in the present moment right now. So people can talk to me about deadline, future with this guy or this player. I just want to continue to build out the process with this group and understand, like, guys, let's just take it day to day. Don't look down the line. You start looking ahead, today gets messed up. We don't want to mess up today. So let's say we're in Toronto today. We're going to prepare and we're going to get ready for a great team tomorrow night. And we're gonna live day to day. But I was at trade deadline acquisition twice, and it's hard. It really is. Your own expectations. You're up and leaving family in some cases. You want to show well. You squeeze the sticks a little bit. The runway is not as long to get you going. It's hard. It really is. But just to add is not what we're going to do. Whether there could be hockey trades that happen to better our team. I like where our group's at. I like the mindset. Again, where the process is going to take care of the result, and we're just focusing on that right now.
Tommy, I wanted to ask you about a couple players. One is Nico Hischier. Just how good is this guy going to become? He just seems to be developing into one of the top two-way players in the league, very Patrice Bergeron-like in the way that he plays. And the other one is Jesper Bratt. Went to arbitration last year, got the 1-year deal over 5 after, a 75-point season, and now he's leading your team in scoring. Where is this one heading in terms of a contract?
Well, I'll start with Nico. There was a reason why I wanted to name him captain in the shortened year. I just, the 3 previous years, you saw how he carried himself, how he respected the game, what he respected in the game, the 200-foot game. I always felt, and I was fortunate to play with Patrice Bergeron my last year, which probably was his second year after the lockout year. And there's a lot of similarities. The most important thing is, the people, the person. Patrice he's a great hockey player, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a great person. He was a great kid. He treats people the right way, and I saw a lot of that in Nico. As an ex-captain, I felt there is an adjustment period to becoming the captain you want to be. And why not allow him to grow into this in a shortened season where expectations aren't overly high? And he's just a good human being. And now you're seeing the growth in his leadership skills, his voice, not only just his voice, but his actions. He's not a do what I say, not what I do. He does it, says it, and he checks. He pushes everybody. As far as Bratt is concerned, we want Jesper Bratt long term. Fortunately, we didn't come to that this summer. We tried, they tried, we tried, but we knew there was a contract there with arbitration. We know we own his rights for another year. I would love nothing better than to tie this young man up long term. I believe Jesper Bratt would like to be here long term, but we'll start those discussions, his agent and I, at some point when we can. But make no ifs, ands, or buts about the want. Our ownership is committed to Jesper Bratt. We're committed to Jesper Bratt. This is part of business. You negotiate contracts, and you just try to fit these pieces in the best way possible. But want is always there.
Tom, we spent an awful lot of our first segment talking about GM meetings and possible rules and things that you guys discuss. And we know that this was just GM meetings part 1 of 2. You guys meet again in March as always. But how heated does it get in there when things like that are discussed? Because I think I look at just the lineup of general managers in the NHL right now. You've got a lot of personalities. You've got a lot of former players from different eras. I imagine some people are a little more stubborn and some people are a little more, let's say, open to change. When discussing rules, how heated does it get in there?
It doesn't. I mean, my experience, I be honest with you, this may have been my first November meeting. Because I came in January 20, first spring meeting. The November meeting in 20 was canceled. Another spring meeting, I think that was canceled. Yeah, this was my first one, to be honest. I've been my first draft GM meeting this past summer because of the live draft. No, not at all. I mean, I think you've got a room full of people who are curious and want the game to grow and get better. You've got a room full of people who aren't afraid to challenge one another or be challenged. There's a lot of respect in that room. And all we want collectively is for the game to continue to grow and get better. And how can we help with that? So really, it was a quick 4.5, 5 hours, to be honest with you.
Tommy,
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just one more thing on the Devils. Obviously big news last week with Marty Brodeur coming in as executive vice president of hockey ops. What exactly is his role going to be with you?
Well, Marty, when I first became the interim, and Marty was taken, from the business side to the hockey side, and actually kind of hold on to two roles: be an advisor, but also help the business side grow through sponsorships, season ticket holders, jersey designs. He helped design our third jersey. He's so passionate about the Devils and hockey. He just wanted to focus in on hockey. Not that we won't use him because he's the guy who's got a statue out front to go speak to people. But he's a great sounding board for me. He's really been instrumental on our goalie department, and whether it's hiring our goalie coaches, vetting that process, scouting now goaltenders, and understanding where other teams are at. Being part of my management staff to. He sits on everything. He sits on our pro calls, our amateur calls, my biweekly, operations calls, ownership calls. He's just a great liaison to have because of the wealth of knowledge, the passion he has for the team. Putting, maybe special assignment scouting trips, doing reports, which is important. I want to know what he sees. He's touching everything. He's just been a great resource for me. To lean on because of his passion and experience in hockey and for the Devils.
To jump back to the GM meetings, I think one of the rules that we argued the most feverishly, and I guess the fans were the most interested, is the offside rule. And I'm just curious your perspective and maybe what you heard in the GM meetings and just the overall feel of how this, now that we've seen it a few years and how it's been implemented and the type of plays it's calling back. Do you feel like it's doing what it was intended to do?
Oh, I absolutely do. And it's funny, I was talking to our coaches today, and Lindy said it. If we do the job right, we should be 100%. We should have 100% batting average of challenges. If we're looking at the right things, and these linesmen, it's a hard job, and miss something, may get distracted for a second because someone's coming at them, and but I think the rule has worked. Yeah, we've been on both sides for sure. When do you challenge? Does it? Does another team's power play come into play if it doesn't go right and you're tied 2-2? Oh, it's 3-2. You challenge it. The 35% power play comes over the boards.
Right.
Those are all things that go into that decision in very short time, and it's hard. But I do think it's worked. I don't think I think definitely challenges are down because of that penalty you may take if it goes against you. But no, I definitely think the rule has worked the way everybody intended it to.
Tommy, I remember when I was covering you in Florida, one of my favorite things to do, I probably wrote 10 of them, was go into the America West Arena locker room and talk to Keith Kachuk about you and get all sorts of childhood stories about your cousin. What's your, there's a lot always we see all about Matthew and Brady, and they're obviously two stars in this league. What are your best memories of them as little kids growing up, and how proud are you of what they've achieved?
Well, of course we're proud of all our family members. The Hayes boys, my boys, the Kachuk boys are, they're the elite of our league. They sure take after their father on the ice. But their personalities are more like their mother, and that's a better thing. So, they, living in St. Louis, we'd see them at certain events. But we were fortunate because Matthew and my son Casey played together on the same development team in Ann Arbor. So those 2 years were incredibly important to our family, where my dad and Keith's dad would travel out together to watch. They were fun times. I mean, how often does that happen for family members to actually play with each other? So, again, we're going to see Brady on Saturday. I hope he has a good game, but the team doesn't. But I always wish them well, and you're always rooting for them when they're not playing against your team, and that's the unique part. Like, I'm a general manager of a team, and Keith works for a team, and my boys are in other organizations, and then you get Kevin Hayes, in Philadelphia. So there's a lot of rivalry going on, but there's a lot of love. We're a very small family, and we take care of each other. We look up to each other, and I know my dad looking down has had a lot of fun. Watching these kids and Keith and myself.
And Tom, we've had a lot of fun talking to you. I mean, we talked about the Hall of Fame in the first segment as well. Keith Kachuk, we were talking about people who were on the outside looking in, could be getting the call at some point as well. Thanks so much for doing this. Congratulations on a great start to the season, and good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it, guys. Anytime.